Good morning. Is this on? It is on, okay. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Swananoa Valley. I forgot where I was for a second. My name is Sally Smith, and I'm the member of the Board of Trustees. We are a liberal congregation without any particular creed, but we do adhere to 8 principles, which are printed on the inside of your order of service, and to a mission statement, which is printed on the front of your order of service. We like to say that you don't have to think alike to love alike, which means we welcome everyone, whether you're young, old, tall, short, gay, straight, have gray hair, purple hair, or no hair, you are welcome here. Before we go any further, I've been asked to make a few announcements. The first is that adultery is meeting tomorrow from 6 to 7:30.
Where?
What that actually means is adult religious education is meeting tomorrow. We call it RE, so it's adultery. Is meeting from 6 to 7:30 tomorrow. You can get more information from the Last Current, which is the newsletter for those of you who might not know what that is. Other announcements, next Sunday is the potluck Sunday after church, even though I'm not sure if it's the last Sunday or not, but it's the third Sunday? Fourth Sunday. So it's the potluck Sunday. And also that on Friday, January 27th, Friday night at the movies is going to start partying again. And it also includes a potluck, which starts at 6. And Mary Soyanova told me to say, with wine. Okay, we have a tradition here of inviting first or second time visitors or those who have been away for a while to stand and introduce yourselves and tell us your name and where you're from if you're comfortable with that. Is there anybody on this side who's new? Go ahead, stand.
Hey everyone, my name is Briggs. I've lived in Black Mountain for about a year and always see the sign that says "Love Beyond Belief," and it brought me here.
Welcome. Is there anyone else on this side? Okay, how about on this side? Nobody new? Okay, nobody new. And just also for visitors, there should be a white card in the back of the pew. If you're interested in getting more information, you can fill that white card out and somebody will contact you by email or phone or whatever it is, however you want to be contacted. Now I would like to read our land acknowledgement statement. The UUCSB acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is the ancestral home of the Cherokee and of other indigenous people. The Cherokee, through stewardship, understanding, and conservation, survived and thrived in this land. We acknowledge their enduring connection to their homeland. With that, I'd like to remind everybody to silence your cell phones or other noisemakers. And we'll let our service begin.
Well, good morning. Happy King Sunday to you. You're looking just as beautiful as you were last Sunday. We only have, let's keep that up until this time next year. You guys look great. I wanted to start this morning with the opening words from Kathleen Mateague. I think you will resonate with these. She says, "We come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment, until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces and see there communion and the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence and memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together. It's a lot of words, but I think you get the gist. Please rise as you are willing and able. Thank you, Diane. And join in our opening hymn this morning, number 114, Forward Through the Ages. We changed those words? We could have changed some of those too, but it's all good. We're not going to quibble. We don't have to think alike to love alike. That's what I've heard. I'm not quite sure all the time. No, but it's an improvement. Our responsive reading is in the back of the gray hymnal, number 732. We'll read responsively. Great Spirit of light and darkness,
we gather once again to remember our fallen friend and nourish ourselves from the fountain of reflections.
Open our hearts to the anguish of our pain, to the tired taste of swallowed tears, and to our unrealized vision.
In this place, we bring our scattered lives together, groping for meaning and looking for truth.
Be with us as we continue our search for understanding of the mystery of the temporal.
Stay with us as we wander through our memories, seeking pathways to the future.
Move with us as we unravel the implied imperatives of hopes unfulfilled.
Justice makes tireless demands, and we grow weary,
And as we touch one another in common cause, and with the great spirit in our midst,
let us find the way and the courage to realize the dream which still lives within us.
Alrighty, this is the time in the service when we invite you to share a joy or concern. Mic is on, Diane is the firekeeper, and the floor is yours.
I haven't decided if this is a joy or a concern. I have realized I'm just in a place of transition. I'm Heidi, and the one thing that I can share easily is that I started a new job on Thursday, and it's completely new to me. I'm a food service assistant at a long-term care nursing home, Black Mountain Neuromedical Treatment Center, and just that's new kind of work for me. So that's it. I'm going to play kickball this afternoon. It's just, there's so many big changes happening that are normal when your child moves out and your husband is ready to change his job, and I'm finding my new place. So it's just a big transition. Yay, Heidi.
Good morning. I'm Rochelle. I have a couple of joys, I think. I got my Medicare card last week. And boy, is that weird to think about. But Heidi's talking about transition. I'm going through lots of transition as well. I gave my job notice. I'm not going to work full time, after April. So I'm really happy about that. And my third joy is that Deb and I just beat feet back from Mobile, Alabama last night. We went down Friday morning, and or Thursday. My uncle, 85 years old. I have one aunt and one uncle left out of a family of 9 aunts, dad and aunts and uncles. And he's 85, and he's like a second dad to me. And he had a stroke a couple of weeks ago, and wasn't moving was having some speech difficulties, not moving his left and right, his right side very well. And I am happy to say that after going down, making a lot of food, putting it in the freezer, and getting him some good food up to the rehab center, he looks really good. His speech is so much better. He walked 105 feet the other day. We just will standby assist, and that right hand, he's got his dexterity back, and he can pick up pills, and so I'm very happy.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I was scared to come up here last week to say I was about to have a heart catheterization, but then I listened to the sermon and realized, Michael was telling me, you think you're not good enough to get up here and ask for people's support. So I had the catheterization, and turned out I don't have a blockage. We still have to figure out why I get breathless on heights walking up hills. I want to walk up those hills. So I'm asking you for your support to walk up the hills. And I want to thank Michael for waking me up a little bit to realize that I'm shy and sometimes I'm just overwhelmed, but I really am grateful to be a member of this congregation. Thank you.
I am Andy, and I am not Jackie Franklin, who is listed as the greeter today. Because Jackie called Elizabeth, the other greeter, and said she is ill again this time with a Nova virus. And so I want everybody to keep her in our hearts, because she's gone through some rough times this past year, health-wise. So everybody just light a personal candle for Jackie.
Just a very quick, the movie that we're going to see on the 27th is Crash. And it's a wonderful movie and makes a lot of political statements, and I think that you'll all enjoy it. There you are.
And there's wine. And there's wine.
And so my name is Elizabeth, and a poet friend of mine, Nelson Satoris, who I think Andy referred to last week. His wife has been ill for a while, and she died on Sunday. So they were married over 55 years, so just to keep him in your thoughts. Thank you.
Oops. My name is Joy, and there's a quote that a very beloved friend of mine, she died at 92. She was my most beloved friend. We knew each other from hospice. And the quote that she taught me, aging is not for sissies.
My name is Bill, and I ain't no sissy. I just want to give a hats off? Is that right? To my good friend and church member, Ray Bockhorst, because Ray is a server for other people in all situations, everywhere he goes. And he's giving driving lessons to Aziz, the Afghan guy. And God bless him. I wouldn't do that for all the money in China. But Ray's doing it, and he does things like that all the time. And then when Aziz gets his driver's license, Ray's going to give him the car. So that's all.
My name is Bear, and that's my cute little wife Dorothy, who goes by Dort, D-O-R-T, not D-O-R-K. And I'm thankful that she's here, because for her season she works Sunday, so she can never be here. So to get her here with me, yes.
Very good. There are no sissies. All right? Just wanted to be clear with that. We don't go there. There's no sissies. Whoever, or for whatever reason that you didn't come up, it's all good. We have your contact information. We have so much data on you. So we'll come up eventually. So, thank you, Di. And I know we joke and we laugh, and it's all good. It's just that we need to think about what we talk, what we say. We will have a time of quiet after. Bertie, you can't hear me? Okay. When did you stop hearing me? About 3 years ago. when I first got the job. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. So, what did I say? That we're not going to do the word sissy, and we know we were just joking and everything, but it's antiquated. And that for those of you, we have, like for instance, I have your personal data, so if you don't come up and talk, I know how to contact you. And I'm joking. And just that we're just happy to be here together. And we will have our time of quiet after these lovely words from our brother Richard Gilbert, who I can't seem to get enough of, and hopefully you won't either. So please center yourselves as you see fit, and open your hearts. This one is called Embracing the Limits of Life. We gather again in this hallowed place to celebrate life, to recreate in gratitude our community of faith, for we have been away too long. Well, it's been a week. It's a long time. We come together as different persons than when we last met. Our lives have not stood still. There are new stories to tell, happy and sad, as we seek to know one another again. The happy stories will always be easy to relate. The shared celebration of living will fall quickly from our lips. The sad stories will come with difficulty, sometimes with tears, and we will listen in love to one another. There are times when life seems without limits, boundless, an ever-ascending journey, a rising chorus, a giant crescendo. We know these are interim times of life's inevitabilities crowd in upon us, and there is suffering. Physical and spiritual. And then there's death. Life's last great reminder that we are indeed finite. We are creatures who live within limits. And so, in the quiet of this hour, may we share our stories, and as we do so, may we learn once again to embrace the limits of life. May we press against those limits by living and loving to the full, and learn at last to embrace them, because this is part of what it means to be alive. In this hallowed place, and in this holy hour, and with this beloved company, may we learn to embrace the limits of our lives. And now, while I got your attention for at least a little while our minds are one, I leave you with the eloquence of silence. And so it is. All righty. The words of the Prophet Muhammad, blessed be he, that we cannot really want for ourselves what we don't want for others. And so, with that in mind, we collect this morning's offering. Thank you for your generosity. It's deeply appreciated. Please rise as you are willing and able, and join in singing our hymn, number 162. Gonna lay down my sword and shield. Sending this to Vladimir Putin after the surgery. If you'd like to wave or sign, just let us know. It'll be in Moscow. He's not taking my calls. With King Day, what can we say about this man that hasn't already been said before? And so maybe next year I'll figure out something else, but I wanted to talk about people, particularly these people we're going to talk about, who are trying to make that dream come true, as are those of us here. And so Belvie, Rooks, and Dedan, Gills are the co-founders of an organization called Growing a Global Heart. And it's a vision inspired to promote the planting of, we've been talking about a lot to bite off, of memorial trees to honor those forgotten souls of our past, from victims of urban violence, the Underground Railroad, and the transatlantic slave route in West Africa, as part of a collective, if you will, healing, and as a solution to climate change. Their motto is healing the wounds of the past in the present while creating a sustainable future. these are remarkable people. Belvie and Dedan were lifelong activists during the civil rights movement, and in 2007, they got married in Ghana. They had their wedding ceremony in Ghana. And at the age of 16, Belvie met Dr. King at a conference organized by the Quakers, and the encounter just launched her social justice and human rights activism. And this was in the 50s. And so for her, it's been a lifelong commitment. After the ceremony, they traveled to the Elmira slave dungeon, where for over 300 years, African men, women, and children were kidnapped from their villages and families to be thrown into the slave dungeons along the west coast. That's the west coast of Africa. If they survived this ordeal, they were pushed into what was called the door of no return on the infamous slave ships to be transported across the Atlantic Ocean. And as they stood at the door, Belvie and Dedan, they said the pain was simply so intense that they just broke down and wept. And they just let the tears flow. They said, we just felt so overwhelmed. Because their ancestors' names, my ancestors' names, were erased from history. You can always find out the names of the ships, but you can't find out the names of the people on them. And erasure is a very deep wound. And Belvie said they looked at each other, and then a question came to them. And as I read and talk to you more about this, I like because they're very intuitive. They listen to these voices, if you will. Now, most people either don't hear them, or if they do hear them, it's an issue. But the way they describe it, Dedan said that for him, healing would feel like, and if you're a therapist or a counselor, you know this, healing would feel like embracing the wound, going through all of the emotions, but not getting stuck there, not living there. And we do this all the time. The next morning, they took the advice of some African elders and they went down to the ocean to perform a cleansing ritual. And the elders told them to do this so that they could run water on their body, but on their feet, because they need to cleanse and not to walk with all of that sorrow. So they performed the ritual, and they said they kept hearing the phrase, plant a tree. Again, I'm listening to my intuition here. I'm not trying to, left brain it. They kept hearing it with their hearts. Plant a tree. And it resonates with me. When my brother was murdered back in '95, I wound up going to Israel and to Jerusalem in 1997. When I was there, I was telling some people that I was grieving the murder of my brother. And the first thing they had me do, and other people who were in the tour with me, they had us plant trees. Dedan said that the phrase was from an Alice Walker poem, Plant a Tree, called Torture. Alice said, when they torture your mother, you plant a tree. When they torture your father, you plant a tree. And so the eureka moment for them, they said, the epiphany in the moment was the awareness that a poem, which he thought was about hopelessness, was actually about hope. So what's the old saying, right? If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change. Planting a tree, sowing a seed, showed that there was a commitment and a vision for the future. After leaving Africa, they fly to Tennessee, to a place called Summertown. These little synchronicities come. Summertown is located in Pulaski County, Tennessee. the very county that gave birth to the KKK in 1865. They thought, what a better place than to plant the trees. I don't know if I'd have thought that. I might have said something bad about somebody's mother or something like that, but I don't know if I'd have thought that. But I like to think that why don't we just plant a tree here underneath Robert E. Lee's lovely statue? Why don't we do that? And so they did. Right in the heart of the Confederacy. And while they had gotten together to visit a friend who was having a baby with a friend from Senegal at this place where they, midwifery or midwifery, they got together at a farm in Summertown. So right in the middle of the Confederacy, at the Global Birthing Center that attracts women from all over the world. You see how these things come together, you know what I mean? Who'd have thunk it? African Americans, Africans, and European Americans joining together to plant those trees in ceremony. So, they're planting the trees. And they're envisioning, we're going to plant these trees all along the Underground Railroad to honor those enslaved people who had died in their quest from freedom. And then another question comes up. So the onion is getting peeled here now. What about the Confederate soldiers? Right? What about those brothers? And now they say they weren't happy about the question, so their spirit is bringing this stuff up. No one's saying to them, hey, what about you embarrassed? No. It's coming up. Because it's part of their journey. It's part of our journey. What about the Confederate brothers and sisters? Especially the soldiers. She said, I don't like this question. Don't like this question coming up from deep within. She didn't like the question because obviously she said if the South had won, she would still be enslaved. But she heard another voice. Whispering in her ear and her heart. And the voice said, it's not about them. This is about you. If you are who you say you're trying to become, then what about the Confederate soldier? Trees breathe for the entire planet. The soil contains the remains of everyone. The Choctaw and the Cherokee were there. They fought on both sides. The remains of the enslaved and the enslavers were there also. The soil is drenched with the blood and tears of both Confederate and Union soldiers. The haters and the hated are all intermingled in this fertile web of this womb of life-giving earth, she says. And she said, I remember thinking about the irony that when we die, all of the horrible things that we do to each other, our physical bodies, our uniforms, all of our flags, all of our symbols of separation, all compost back into the soil and give life to the living. We'll put that in when we send to Brother Puga. Like that. And we send some vodka, and we're diplomats for, he's on my mind this morning. Now, what kind of lesson, because it's not just him, but he's been on my mind for the last couple of days. What kind of lesson is in all of that? You see, that is why there are times, and some of you have voiced your uncomfortability with me. And it's America, we don't have to agree. But there were times when I lit a candle, or I mentioned in the joys and concerns, maybe there was a violence, maybe there was some racial violence or whatever. And I would light a candle, not just for the victims, but the perpetrators. Do you remember? Do you remember when Brother Dylan Roof, a white supremacist, killed those 9 people of color in the AME church in Charleston, South Carolina, while they were praying? And I lit a candle for him. And some of y'all tried to give me what for, and I was like, so? You don't have to like it. But, and I did it not because I liked what he did, but if I am trying to be the type of person who I say I want to be, and if you are, then you don't get to decide whose inherent worth and dignity you get to trample over. You don't get to decide that. If we're going to be the people we say we want to be, well, we have to raise our frequencies. We have to raise our consciousness, because the planet needs to be healed. And that takes time and practice, and that's what this church is about, this congregation. That's why, that's what any church must be about. I get it, you don't have to like it, you don't have to come. But that's what, as long as I'm the minister here, that's what we're going to be about. That's what we're going to be about. Inherent worth and dignity. You don't get to decide who gets it or how they need to behave. They don't have to earn it. It's in them. And people make mistakes, heinous mistakes. King says that the church is not a social club. I say clique. But it's not that either. Although some people think it is. They get caught up and they're being exclusive, and they feel it's a kind of a social club with a veneer of religiosity, of spirituality. But the church is not a clique. The church is not an entertainment center. Although some people think it is. I mean, yeah, we have a good time, we laugh, we joke here, but that's not our main thrust, if you will. You can tell in many churches that the church is an entertainment center. But he says that's not what the church is about. He says, let us first think of the fact that if the church is going to follow its guidelines, those are his words, we would say principles, it seeks to heal the brokenhearted. Now, there's probably no human condition more tantalizing than a broken heart, King says. You see, brokenheartedness is not a physical condition. It's a condition of spiritual exhaustion. And who here this morning, these are his words because he was preaching, has not experienced a broken heart? I would say brokenheartedness comes basically from the experience of continually being disappointed. He says, and I don't believe there are many people here this morning under the sound of my voice who have not been disappointed about something. UUCSB is here to at least try to heal broken hearts. Now back to Belvie. That was a commercial. I have to remember it's King Sunday, so you have to get King in there, you know. Belvie goes on to talk about the trees. Belvie goes on to say that the tree is an inclusive manifestation of unconditional love. When the tree reaches maturity, it bears fruit. It provides shade. It can be used to make homes and shelter. The tree gives to everyone in its presence. In other words, it doesn't tell you, no, you're a Confederate, you're trans, you're Vladimir. It's a beautiful way to think and to be, in my mind. Because we live at a time in which none of the standard ways of resolving human conflict seems to be working for us now. None of it seems to be working. And somehow we have got to come up with transcendent models that go way beyond Democrat versus Republican, nation state versus nation state, male versus female, and old versus young. All of the divides and identities they put walls around us. And they point at other people as being the cause of our misery. And as the Dalai Lama reminds us that you're going to have a tough life if you think that everything happens to you is somebody else's fault. There are people who do that. A tree transcends those divides. It challenges us to emulate its magnificence and beauty in its stillness and in its nobility. To plant a tree is an act of love and hope, because depending on the type of tree, it may take many years for it to bear fruit. For instance, an olive tree takes 25 to 30 years to produce an olive. So that means when you're planting that tree, you're planning for the future. You may not even live to see it. And this is what Tagore says. Remember, he says that when you plant a tree, knowing that you may never sit in its shade, this is when you begin to discover the meaning of life. So Belvie says that when someone asks now, what does healing look like? He now answers, you're what healing looks like. This is what healing looks like. He says he knows there's not a lot in our culture that is working now, but he is choosing to focus on what is working. He goes on to say that we often get caught up, particularly the older activists, on the struggle and the problem. We came of age during the civil rights movement, so it was a struggle. Segregation was a struggle, and struggle is really important, but it's also important to focus on the solutions. And like Einstein reminds us, you can't solve a problem using the same consciousness that created it in the first place. You can't. We are hopeful. We are here because of the younger people's energy. And so Belvie and Dedan incarnate the message of love as taught by Dr. King. Those with agape love in their souls, says King, refuse to mete out hate for hate. For they know that what is given returns to the giver, right? Universal law. It's not personal. It's not because nobody likes you. It's because what you put out comes back. Martin was clear with his message. Agape love is not mere sentimentalism or passivity. It's not about feeling affection for the enemy, and you can if you have any enemies. It's not about liking them, but it's about seeing them as God sees them in their wholeness, and reminding us that even love temporarily defeated is still stronger than so-called evil triumphant. And that the contradictions of life are not final. Good Friday comes before Easter. It has to. This is the way of life. I'm saying this to you now because some of you I won't see again until Easter Sunday. King taught this because it holds the vision that another's heart can be transformed. Even as he was imprisoned time and time again for his efforts to end segregation, he urged his followers to love the segregationists, at least try. For love alone has the power to create common ground. Now, Alice Walker says anything we love can be saved. I don't know if that's true, but it can certainly help. So after their return from West Africa in 2007, Belvie and Dedan led tree planting ceremonies in some of North America's most challenging areas, actually. Each time, people from all ages and races were brought together in a circle of common cause, planting seeds and planting trees of hope. And as we all do, Dedan crossed over in 2015. He died in 2015. Belvie is still here. Her journey, her work here is still going on. She continues to work with the message of hope. Before he died, Dedan had this to say about his belief, that hearts long to beat in tandem with each other. He said, I read somewhere that if you take the heart cells of two different human beings beating at different rates and you put them in the same petri dish, one of them will pause so that the other one can beat in synchronicity with one another. He says, I think that that's what we want to do. I think that's what we yearn for, to be in synchronicity with others' hearts. So taking a pause from how you look at the world, maybe we too can try and beat in tandem with the other hearts around us. Happy King Sunday to you. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. Okay, our last hymn this morning, please stand as you are willing and able. Hymn number 153, Woke Up This Morning, which is always... Words enough have been spoken and melodies enough have been sung. You're now on your own, in your own quiet way. You know, do what you need to do to heal the planet, to heal one another, to heal yourself. And remember the words of Dr. King, that when fear knocks on your door and faith answers, nobody's there. Have a wonderful afternoon.